Tommy Jaggi here with NFL expert Marcus Mosher on Stacking the Box, part of the FanSided Network. Marcus, I want to talk about some of the things that are going around the NFL recently. Next week, we're going to get deep into the NFL Combine stuff. I know everybody's ready for that. And then free agency just around the corner. But in kind of the slow cycle, Marcus, we've got some stuff happening. Big news surrounding the Miami Dolphins, all the roster decisions they're making. We're going to dive into that. Tyreek Hill, the aftershock of his release, what that means for him and for any potential teams moving forward. Are the Chiefs getting back on track after hitting a bumpy road in 2025? And which teams, Marcus, may already be preparing to tank in 2026? Too early to tank? I don't know. Maybe not for some of these teams. Let's talk about the Dolphins, though, as we kick off today's show, Marcus, blowing up their roster. Unlike anything that we've seen, I think in a while now, and I don't know if anybody anticipated all this happening quite so fast. Now, obviously, Miami is in a big financial dilemma. They had to make some of these moves, but Tyreek Hill is gone. Bradley Chubb is gone. James Daniels gone. Nick Westbrook-Akeem is gone. And more could be traded or released here soon. We can dive into each of these, but what's your overall thoughts on the Dolphins situation right now?
None of these are unexpected, right? I think Chris Greer, who was the former GM, he just did a really bad job of structuring some of these contracts. And then a lot of these guys got hurt. James Daniel, I believe, got hurt on the third play of the season this year. Tyreek Hill obviously had the gruesome knee injury. Bradley Chubb missed the entire 2024 season with an injury on and off the field in 2025. So together, none of these moves are all that surprising. But I think the part of it that's fascinating is you have a new GM, you've got a new coach. They're clearly trying to reset the roster. The previous regime with Miami, they went all in with Tyreek Hill. They traded up for Jalen Waddle. They tried to capitalize on a window. It didn't happen. And now they're paying the piper a little bit here. And honestly, I respect it. Rather than just trying to roll this over and pushing more cap space into the future, I think they recognize where they're at as a franchise. They're not going to be a Super Bowl caliber team this year, no matter how well the draft and free agency goes. So they're clearing the books so that they can maybe capitalize in 2027 and 2028 if they find that next quarterback.
Yeah, you can only kick the can down the road so long, and that's what Miami has been doing for several years now. When it was previously Mike McDaniel-led team, they made those big trades. They had huge investments financially. They're still negative in cap space in terms of effective cap space, Marcus, so they feel backed up to their 90-man summer roster. They don't even have the funds to do that yet, even after the moves they've made, which is why they're looking to do more, looking to move on from Tua. Let's get into a couple of these specifically, and we'll table Tyreek for now. We'll talk about him in just a second. But Bradley Chubb, a move that never really worked out in Miami's favor. I think that he played well at times. But, man, you talked about a guy that's been zapped of all that athleticism we saw early on in his career because of the knee injuries and just didn't quite get their money's worth out of that deal. It was time to move on, right?
I mean, I actually thought he played better down the stretch, but yeah, I mean, it's because clearly not the same player that he was when he was drafted, I think, 4th overall by Denver. I think he gave you some adequate snaps, but a 29-year-old pass rusher who's had multiple lower body leg injuries isn't something that you want to continue to pay. To me, this is a no-brainer decision. They tried to trade him at the deadline. Nobody was interested in taking on that contract. And even they were trying to just get a 6th or 7th round pick. Wasn't going to happen. So yeah, I think Chubb could be a valuable player on like a championship team as a 3rd or 4th rusher? Sure. But for Miami, it didn't make sense keeping him.
Marcus, this isn't necessarily related just to the Dolphins, but are we seeing a trend around the league now where it's like, we can't risk the double gut punch of trading for a defensive superstar, giving up all that draft capital and paying them top of the market money. We saw it didn't really pan out with Bradley Chubb. Obviously, we're very early into the Micah Parsons deal, but he's coming off an ACL tear and he's going to have to rehab from that. And then we look at the cornerback trade between the Jets and the Colts getting Sauce Gardner.
Right. Yep.
Are we reaching a breaking point where it's like just teams got to kind of wise up and maybe not do these type of moves anymore?
I mean, I would have a hard time doing it, but I also understand like the Colts thought they were in a Super Bowl window. And honestly, I know it's easy in hindsight to say, okay, they shouldn't have made that move, but they were the 8-2 when they traded for Sauce
Mm.
Gardner. They didn't know that Daniel Jones was going to tear his Achilles. They didn't know that Sauce Gardner was going to get hurt pretty quickly after trading for him. So I understand the thought process here. But you're right. It's awfully hard to do these deals. And I think we are actually getting more and more. We saw Sauce traded at the deadline. We saw Quinnen Williams traded from the Jets to the Cowboys. I think Max Crosby is somebody who's going to get moved this offseason. We're going to talk about the Chiefs in a little bit, but Trent McDuffie is another player who's been on the block for a little bit. I think whenever you have these, star caliber players, the A+ versions of a corner or an edge rusher or a defensive tackle, there's always going to be a market and there's always a team that's going to be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like there has been because we just saw two of those blockbuster trades in the 2025 season before the deadline. Speaking of trades, Marcus, the Dolphins want to make some of their own to further get out of the cap dilemma and to turn the page fully on the old era, start anew with head coach Jeff Hafley. Minka Fitzpatrick is reportedly being open to trade from Miami. Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, good luck with that one in the contract that he's got attached to him. What do you see the Dolphins doing here? Do you think that a couple of these guys are in fact going to get dealt, or which players might they need to flat out just part ties with and just release?
There were some rumors at the trade deadline last year that the Bills offered a 2026 first round pick for Waddle, and Miami didn't have any interest. They wanted a 2027 first instead, which I think is actually really smart. Yeah. I think at this point, it just makes sense to hold on to Waddle because you're going to need weapons for whatever quarterback you sign, whatever quarterback you draft in the next couple of years. So I understand holding on to him. The Minka one is it's pretty easy. He's still a good player. I thought he played very well in 2025. The contract's very manageable, but he wants a new deal. Do I think you're going to get a first round pick out of Minka? No. Is it more likely going to be a third or fourth round pick? Probably. But having a 28, 29-year-old safety that wants a new deal on your books isn't the way to team build when you don't have a quarterback, right? So I think he gets done. The fascinating one for me is Tua because the contract it's really bad. And I think Tua has really regressed as a player over the last couple of years. But if Tua were to become available, whether Miami takes on 95% of that cap or however it turns out, I do think there are going to be teams out there that need quarterbacks that are willing to take a chance here. And I'll give you a team. I think the Minnesota Vikings, considering what we saw from J.J. McCarthy last year, they need a quarterback in there that's a more viable contender. I wouldn't be surprised if Tua gets a shot there. I wouldn't be surprised if Tua gets a shot in Arizona after they move on from Kyler Murray. Nobody's going to trade anything significant for him, but there will be interest.
Yeah, and I just wonder what that's going to look like. The contract is so bad. You talked about it. Technically, the Dolphins could save $11 million in cap space, but you're eating $45.2 million in dead money with a pre-June 1st trade. And he's got cap numbers coming up: $56 million this year, $53 the following year, $65 the year after that. And thankfully, his guarantees are going to be gone after this season. But for a team potentially trading for Tyreek Hill, Marcus, what do you think that structure would look like?
For Tua,
for Tua.
Yeah, for Tua. I mean, I think it's simply Miami just eating a lot of the cap, and maybe Miami eats all of it, and that allows them to get a little bit better of a pick. Because if let's use Minnesota as the example. If you're Minnesota, you can't really afford to pay Tua a bunch of money, but maybe you would give up a third or fourth round pick if he's basically a vet minimum player for you, right? And if you're Arizona. Maybe it is more interesting having Tua in a LaFleur offense where you can do a lot of the same things that Mike McDaniel did. I think my issue, Tommy, is that Tua has just regressed so much as a quarterback. He doesn't want to get hit, and we understand why. The concussions have really zapped him of all of his ability to stand in the pocket. He doesn't want to take off and run. And that just makes you a very limited quarterback. And he was always a limited quarterback to a degree, but not like this. This is a shell of himself. And he's just not all that appealing of a player anymore.
No, he really isn't, despite the fact that he's only going to be 28 years old for the 2026 season. I don't know, Marcus, maybe we should just do what Yankee swap or white elephant here, and everybody just pass one quarterback to the left, like the
probably
Cardinals
what's going to happen, right?
I
mean, I think I was going to say, I think you're going to see Malik Willis in Miami. I think you might see Kyler Murray like with the Jets. Maybe you see Justin Fields as a backup with the Packers. It's going to be wild to see where these
the winds change quickly in the NFL, especially when there's new regimes coming in. We're seeing one in Arizona and we're seeing one in Miami. And so wouldn't be surprised at all to see those quarterbacks leave. Let's talk more about Tyreek Hill now, though, Marcus, and what it could mean for his future. Obviously, we got to address the legal situation. He was hit with domestic violence charges back in September of 2025. Do you have any indication of what that might mean for a looming suspension, or is it too early to predict that?
It's still a little too early, but I think this just complicates things even further with Tyreek Hill, right? He's coming off a major knee injury. And I think we just got the report from John Middlecoff the other day that he just started walking by himself. Tyreek Hill also said that he still has another surgery that has to happen before he can get back onto the field. So you're looking at somebody that, if he plays this year, might not play until like Thanksgiving, if not later. And then there's a potential of a surgery, a suspension. On top of that, like these receivers that switch teams in their 30s, the hit rate's not very good. Mm-hmm. I just wonder, like, if we've seen the last of Tyreek Hill being a receiver that frankly matters in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth questioning. We've seen some of these catastrophic knee injuries in the past, just how long it takes to recover from them. Steelers linebacker Cole Holcomb had one.
Tank Dell had one, missed the entire season. Yep.
Yeah. You go back to who's the Cowboys linebacker that they had there? That Jalen Smith.
Jalen Smith.
Like, you're just not the same when you have these. And we're hearing that. I mean, obviously, we knew that it was multiple ligaments torn in this knee injury. It was ugly. And there's talks that there could be nerve palsy as well, where he might not have full nerve function, and that would be catastrophic to his NFL career if that were the case. Now, assuming that he's able to come back eventually, however long that takes, whether it's November, December this year, finally be able to get on the field, what are we looking at here in terms of a player who's going to be 32 years old, comes with baggage, obviously? Do you have any indication of what's the right contract gamble for a team looking to bolster their wide receiver corps with someone like this?
I think you're looking honestly at a vet minimum deal with some incentives, like based on games played, receiving yards. But I think anybody expecting him to be Tyreek Hill again is going to be disappointed. And honestly, Tommy, I thought even last year before the injury, you saw some decline in his athleticism and in some speed. He's always going to be fast, or at least he was fast before the injury. I think now the way you look at him is the way that we look at players like DeAndre Hopkins, where it's a guy that you just have in the middle of your depth chart. You're hoping he can give you one or two plays a game. But I think the days of him being a receiver that truly matters and a difference maker, and I hate to say this, but it's over.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, Marcus. And if you stack up all the factors right now, the legal issues, the coming off the catastrophic injury, the age, he's going to be 32 years old, and you're going to pay him for what he's going to do at 32, 33 after a horrible knee injury. I just can't see many teams being interested in Tyreek Hill at all. We'll see if he lands with an organization, but something to monitor at least as he is officially gone from the Miami Dolphins. Marcus, surprisingly too, we could go back and talk about his career a little bit. When the Dolphins traded for Hill, it's like, all right, maybe Hill has already seen his best days with the Chiefs. He goes on for back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons in 2022 and 2023 with the Dolphins. I mean, one of the best receivers. We could talk personality. Obviously, Steelers dealt with Antonio Brown, so we know what personalities are like, but one of the best receivers of the last generation in football. Undoubtedly, don't know if we'll ever see that same guy again. Let's talk about his former team here, the Kansas City Chiefs. Are they set to get back on track? So obviously, Patrick Mahomes, they recently restructured his contract. And you talk about a steal of a deal. I mean, that signing that 10-year, $450 million, 45 per year, couple of years later, looked amazing, even though Mahomes has not been the same quarterback these past few years. Thank you, Matt Nagy. What does this mean, Marcus, the restructure for Kansas City, and what does it allow them to do?
It just gives them a little bit more flexibility. They were way over the cap going into the offseason. They're going to need to make some other moves just to get back under the cap. But I think the more fascinating thing for me is I'm curious to see how the Chiefs handle this offseason, because I'm of the belief that I don't think they're anywhere close to being a championship caliber roster. And we saw that last year. I mean, they were a 6-16, 6-7 at one point. And then Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. He's hoping to play in week 1. We'll see. It's an old roster that needs to be completely turned over. They've got some big time free agents, including Trent McDuffie, who is, I believe, on the 5th-year option. They've got Jalen Watson, one of their outside corners, who's a free agent. If I were the Chiefs front office, and I know it's really hard to throw away a prime Patrick Mahomes season, but he's not healthy and the roster's not good enough, I think this is the year to reset a little bit, move on from some veterans, don't sign any big contracts, and reset the books a little bit so in 2027 and beyond, you can get back to being a team in the AFC that can make a difference.
And so then it would beg the question, Marcus, why do this restructure? Wouldn't you rather take more of this up front? Are they not willing to concede defeat on this season? I mean, they've got an old head coach. They've got Patrick Mahomes. There's always a chance, right? You get into the postseason, but maybe better long-term if they hadn't done this?
Well, they just needed the flexibility even to sign draft picks and sign free agents to build out a roster. And this was the easiest way to do so. Even restructuring this deal and pushing more money into the future doesn't really change that it's an amazing contract for the Chiefs, right? So it's just not that big of a deal. The cap is also going up every single year. To me, this is honestly just a move that they had to do just to have a somewhat normal offseason.
If you are the Chiefs now, where do we go from here? I mean, in a sense, like I agree with you. I don't think they're ready. The roster is not good. It has regressed significantly over the past 2 or 3 seasons. I don't know if you can be competitive enough this year, but at the same time, you have Patrick Mahomes in the prime of his career. Are you going to go out and make any win now moves, or would you push those off until 2027?
I mean, I wouldn't, because I think you try to build through the draft. Maybe you sign some guys on lower contracts with some more upside. But no, I don't think you make a big splash with the idea that you're going to be a Super Bowl caliber team, because we don't even know if Patrick Mahomes is going to be healthy for week 1. And if he misses the first 4 weeks of the season, they've got no chance in that division of being a playoff caliber team. I think you also need to look toward 2027 and what your team could look like, because let's talk about it. Rashee Rice is going into the final year of his contract. He was just sued this week for some domestic violence allegations. And, you know, again, you're innocent until proven guilty, but this is somebody who has had legal issues before. Xavier Worthy was banged up last year. You're hoping that he's healthy. I wouldn't want Travis Kelce if I'm Kansas City, because what's the point? What's the point in bringing back Travis Kelce? I would rather develop somebody young to make this offense more explosive. I think it's time for them to think hard about a 1-year reset.
Yeah, 100%. That's what the Chiefs need to do at this stage. They've got declining players. They've got bad contracts. Hit that reset button. Mahomes is still young enough. He can live through a kind of a rebuild, if you will, in Kansas City and get back on top again. I think that's possible still. You're tuned into Stacking the Box, where NFL fans come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, head up fansided.com, powered by the passionate fans at FanSided. Make sure you check out all of our content on the FanSided NFL Network. Marcus, let's talk about NFL teams that might already be preparing to tank. Like, the writing's on the walls here. And I think some teams are absolutely moving in the correct direction. You look at the Las Vegas Raiders getting Clint Kubiak as their head coach. They're going to draft Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. And they already have awesome skill players with Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, and got some really good things going for them. But other teams, not so much. The New York Jets, stuck in the basement forever. How does this team escape this? Are they just biting the bullet on this season altogether and saying there's no quarterback worth drafting here at number 2? There's nothing that we can do to be remotely competitive this season. Are they one of the tanking teams, Marcus? And who else might be tanking this year?
Yeah, it's funny. Miami and the Jets are the two teams, in the AFC East that I think are both going to try to tank, right? You've got the Jets who have 2 first-round picks this year. They also have, I think it's 3 first-round picks in 2027, one from the Colts, one from the Cowboys. And that is a draft that's expected to have more starting caliber quarterbacks, whether that's Dante Moore or Arch Manning, or maybe it's Lenore Sellers or Julian Sayin. Like the list goes on, compared to this class that has maybe 2 or 3 draftable quarterbacks inside the top 100. So I think the Jets are pretty clearly resetting the roster. So is Miami. Cleveland's another one. I think Cleveland's going to use their first 2 picks this year on offensive line help and maybe set themselves up to be in the quarterback market again in 2027. It seems like it's those 3 teams, and we'll see about Arizona, what they decide to do, that are clearly not building their rosters to win in 2026.
Yeah, Arizona was going to be the other team that I would mention there too, even though they've got a new head coach. Quarterback situation is a mess. Roster's not very good. Finished with the top 3 pick this year and maybe on track to have that again the following season. We will see. All right, this is the Stacking the Box show. We premiere every Tuesday and Thursday evening. Be sure to check us out. Like the stream, follow us for more content on the YouTube side of things. You can check out Marcus's content on X at Marcus_Mosher. You can check out my content on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written content on stillcurtain.com, Marcus's written content on the FanSided NFL Network and fansided.com. Be sure to check out fansided.com for all your daily sports news and opinions. And thanks again for listening to the Stacking the Box podcast.